Hello there and welcome. In this episode we're looking at the all-new Fluval Spec 60 litre aquarium, otherwise known as the Fluval Spec 16. Now, the keen-eyed amongst you will recognise this tank as something very similar to a tank that Fluval have already got out, and that is the Fluval Evo. And the reason for that is because this is a slightly larger version of the Fluval Evo with a different light, and it is now a freshwater aquarium. It features a 7000K high output LED, whereas the Fluval Evo has a 14,000K LED. And that is what has made the difference in this aquarium from it being a marine aquarium to a freshwater tank. Here are the dimensions for the Fluval Spec freshwater. Now, Fluval have rated this aquarium at 60 litres, whereas the Evo is a 52 litre aquarium. So you've gained a little bit of volume. The only difference in dimension between this tank and the Evo is it is a little bit taller. The rest of the dimensions, the width and the length, are actually exactly the same as the Fluval Evo. Once again, just like the Evo, you don't get a heater in this aquarium, but you do have a space in the filtration system to allow you to add one. So the Fluval Spec 60 litres has a 3-stage filtration system. We have your overflow weir here, and that's where the water comes into the filter. The water then flows into the middle section, which contains your foam, your carbon and your biomass, and that's where most of the filtration happens. We also have this sediment trap here, which I really like, and what that means is all the dirt and things that are falling out of the filter or don't get captured by the filter tend to build up in this area, which means you can remove them quite easily. The water flows through that gap there and then is returned to the aquarium by the pump that's in that section. So a very neat filtration system, and it also allows this space here to be used for other things. Now, the light itself is a very powerful 7000K LED light. It's rated at 16 watts, and you can see the lumens and all the other technical data there. So that's the basics of this aquarium. Let's actually have a look at it. So here is the Fluval Spec 16, and yes, it looks almost identical to the Fluval Evo. It has exactly the same lid. It even looks like it has exactly the same light. One major difference though, which is missing from the older generations of the Fluval Evo, are these little things here. And there have been problems with not just the Evo, but also the Fluval Flex. And one of the major problems is the fact that if you remove this, and this doesn't come as standard on the older versions of the Evo or the Flex, you've got quite large holes here. And what's been happening is small fish like neon tetras have been getting sucked down this hole and ending up in the filtration system. So what Fluval have come up with is this little weir guard, and it has slightly smaller holes than that weir, and that should hopefully prevent any of the smaller fish being sucked down it. So this aquarium has the same honeycombing along the top of the water line, and it goes all the way around the fish tank. It's also on the filtration area as well, and what this does is hide a lot of the ugly parts of the aquarium. You can see the filter, but it's not in your face, which is a nice feature, and you don't get that on many other fish tanks. Also, along the top there, when the water level's there, it kind of disguises the water level and any marks that appear around the water level area and makes the tank look a little bit cleaner. Just like the Fluval Evo, it's a very modern design. It's a very unique design to Fluval itself. There aren't many aquariums that look like this. One thing I would note though is it doesn't look anything like the previous generations of the Fluval Spec. So why they have called this a Fluval Spec, I don't know. I feel it is better served being called a Fluval Evo Freshwater. That may have been a better name, and leave the specs in the past and move forward with a new brand being the Evo. But I'm not in their marketing team. Now, looking at the lid, we've got a feeding hole, which means you don't have to remove the lid to feed your fish. We've got this light bar, which we'll have a look at in a second, and we still have this segment here which you can remove to add a skimmer. So potentially you could run this as a marine aquarium, but it wouldn't make a lot of sense because the light isn't quite the right Kelvin to grow many corals. We have these removable tabs which allow you to pass wires through. So let's have a look at the light. Now, it's quite easy to remove. It just slides out like that. It is obviously very bright, as I've already mentioned. we have got rows of the white LEDs and a few of the blues dotted in between. Now, the way that that is controlled is there is a touch button here. So I'll just turn it off and I'll show you the sequence of how the lights come on. So one touch puts the whites on, second touch puts the blues and the whites on, and a third touch turns the whites off and leaves the blue on. So that is good for a night light if you wanted it. I'll just show you what the lights look like inside of the tank when they're on. So that is the white on its own. Now that looks quite nice. This colour looks exactly like you would expect a freshwater tank to look like. Slightly yellow, but a nice crisp white colour. Now when you add the blue, it turns a little bit too blue for my liking. I feel it's now looking a little bit like a marine aquarium spectrum, but I suppose it does make the white slightly crisper, but I personally would run it without the blues being run myself, because I don't think that this colour spectrum is quite right for a freshwater aquarium. And then the blues on just themselves. Now I think these blues are the exact same LED blues that are in the marine tank, because it's making this plant slightly fluorescent, which I don't really know whether that's a good thing for a freshwater tank. Will this quite strong blue LED promote algae? That is something that we'll need to see once these have been set up. So on the whole, I think this aquarium is just as good as the saltwater Fluval Evo. It is essentially the same thing with a slightly taller glass and a different light. And the Fluval Evo is an excellent aquarium, so it goes without saying that this should be an excellent aquarium as well. Now pricing wise, it is a bit cheaper than the Fluval Evo. Despite being almost identical, it comes out at around £120, whereas the Fluval Evo is around 150, which is a bit strange really, because I don't think you can justify the cost between the freshwater and the marine tank, considering that they are basically exactly the same. So it looks like there is a premium being put on aquariums just because they are called marine. At the moment of this video, the Fluval Spec 60 is only available in the UK in a aquatics chain which has the name of a town and then aquatics. I won't mention it in full, but in America I've seen some other videos doing reviews, so I'm assuming it is on full release, or at least a limited release, in the United States. So thank you for watching. I hope this video has been interesting. Please remember to like the video and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of this kind of content. Once again, thanks for watching and happy fish keeping!